Well guys, how are you? It's good to see you. We're back again. This is another one of our murder studies that we're doing today, and we're doing this one in a roundabout way because where we're starting on this video is really the end point of this story. But we're at this Lemass monument, okay, Captain Noel Lemass monument, and it's on the boundary between the Dublin and Wicklow mountains. And I hope you can hear me because it's very windy up here, even though we're just past Midsummer's Eve, and it is a lovely day on lower levels. It's actually quite cold up here now at the moment, and it's very, very windy. And I suppose this is, you go, why are we starting roundabout face on this? Well, this is where a family that was out for a walk came across a body. And we're going to hop in the car. Maybe you'll come with us, and we're going to have a little chat, and we're going to go for a drive, and we're going to cover what we know about this case. Anyhow, a very, very much forgotten case, and maybe a case that never really got the amount of media attention that it should have done or could have done. But we're going to go for a drive now. We're heading over that way, so why don't you hop in the car with us? Okay guys, we're back in the car. As I point that way, that's where the monument we're coming from, and we're back onto the beautiful featherbeds, the military road, whatever you want to call it. Now, just, you know, to give people an idea of where we're at, that way that the camera's looking right now, we're just really a couple of miles above the Hellfire Club, and that direction will bring us towards Dublin. This direction, off this way here, you can see a white car in the very far distance. That's heading towards Glencree, where the German graveyard is and the Reconciliation Centre is. So we're up here on the Wicklow Mountains, a place that has I suppose been a place where people have put bodies for a long period of time. And you know, just down the road here we have Elaine O'Hara, and there's been a lot of bodies that have been disposed of. It's a horrible word to use because these are people's, you know, nearest and dearest, next of kin, but sadly they are disposed by grotesque people. This one is about a lady that was only 27 years of age, Antoinette Smith. And like I said up there, this case didn't get a huge amount of, or certainly didn't get as much media exposure as it should have done. Antoinette was only 27 years of age. She was living in Clondalkin. When she died, she had two very young children, Rachel and Lisa Smith. I think they were 3 and 7 years of age respectively. Is that right, Doc? Yeah. So like, there you go, straight away, you know, you have two little kids without a mother. And she had separated from her husband Carl. I think he was a fireman, so he was left now with, you know, a difficult task ahead. It's hard enough being a parent when there are two parents in a family. Now he had to try and be mother and father, and facilitate some sort of comfort and psychological support for these girls that didn't have a mother any longer. So there's all that, and it's very close to the 36th anniversary now of Antoinette, because she went missing the day after. On the 11th of July, she went to Slane with her friend Marie Cunningham, and David Bowie was playing there. And you know, at 27 years of age, she had two kids. She'd done quite a bit of living, insofar as that, you know, her old teenage years were probably taken away from her. She got married quite young, would have had a kid very soon after being married, so she had to be a responsible mother at a very, very young age, before she was probably 21, you know, obviously before she was 21. So this was an occasion for her to have a night off, a day off, go and have a bit of fun, and you know, be happy. And it didn't. I'm sure she had a fantastic day, but look at the way it ended up. It's really, really sad. Now, we talk about things like geographical profiling and stuff like that. So geographical profiling, and you know, it's not that I'm having a pick on Larry Murphy per se, but Larry Murphy would have driven the length and breadth of these Wicklow Mountains, and he would have been quite familiar with them. And it's also known that when he was working in certain places in Dublin, that he would have rented bed sits and flats, and he'd have paid for them in cash and whatnot. And you know, a record of where he was or where he wasn't became very, very vague. So in terms of geographical profiling, it's quite conceivable to think that Larry Murphy could have had a hand to play in this. I'm not saying that he did, I'm just saying he could have. But there's no doubt about it, whoever did is a Larry Murphy type character, and sadly and shockingly there's much more of them out there than we actually think. But like, I mean, to cut to the chase, he would have known this area, and that's where serial killers, violent criminals, that's where their propensity of crime lies at, in an area that they know very, very well. It gives them a better sense of being an opportunistic crime, because they can identify people that are really not from the area, and if they're not from the area, the most likely, if they get away with their hide, they can't give such a positive description of that individual or know them. Now, another thing is that there's a system called the VICLAS system, VICLAS, violent crime analysis system. And basically what that means is every serial killer has this propensity and modality that they use. So, you know, some have let's just say in this case, we know what Larry Murphy's modality was. He put a bag over females' heads and he bound them with their bra. How do we know that? We know that because the lady that he raped in Carlow, that was from Carlow, that he brought to the Wicklow Mountains, he did this with her, and he would have definitely murdered that girl. He was in the act. It was on the cusp of murdering that girl when you know, two fantastic hunters came up. I don't want to name them for the camera. Two fantastic hunters came along and were actually able to, you know, frighten him, and off he went, and they actually could positively ID him as well. Fantastic work on those guys' behalf, and they certainly saved the life that night. So this analysis was put into the system, and you know, it's almost like a DNA or a fingerprint, and out of the system came this lady that had been murdered almost 12 years before that, in 1987. Now, according to records and statistics that are held, most serial killers perpetrate their first serious crime in terms of murder when they're approximately 21, which, believe it or not, would have been bang on thereabouts for Larry Murphy's age at the time. But that system came out, and it linked, because this poor lady was found in a similar way to how the girl from Carlow that was brought to the Wicklow Mountains. So we're going to take a drive down now. We're heading down this way towards Crewe Wood, and Crewe Wood has a certain relevance with this, because on the Sunday morning after Slane in 1987, so the Sunday morning after Antoinette went missing, a man got up really early to bring his dog for a walk to Crewe Wood, parked up, head off into the woods and went for a walk. Next thing, he met two men in their 20s, and when he met those two men, he got a bit of the heebie-jeebies about it, because he said, look, they weren't even dressed as you would expect hikers to be dressed, so he didn't think that they were really out for a morning hike, early morning hike at that, and he was concerned about the safety of his car. Now, I don't know if I discussed this on previous videos, but Larry Murphy has a friend, a cousin, a friend, an ex-classmate. They're of the same age, thereabouts, give or take a year, and they sat beside one another at school, and that is David Lawler. Now, David Lawler, later on down the road, was convicted of the murder of, was it Marilyn Wynne, is that right now? Yeah, and that was just coming up to Christmas time in Blanchardstown. David Lawler, telecommunications engineer, worked for Telecom, or maybe Aircom at the time, I can't remember which one it was, but you know, he had a good job, and that was his gig. So who knows, maybe that was the two men that this individual came across in Crewe Woods that morning. You like, the whole idea of doing this video Roundabout Face is to show you the proximity of the area, and I'm sure that the family, so after the Slane gig they went into town. So I suppose the timeline was Antoinette got up in the morning, got herself ready, got dressed up, was really looking forward to this, dropped Lisa and Rachel off to the dads in the Drimna or Crumlin area, and went for a few drinks in a local bar, and then herself and Maria went into town, bought a few David Bowie Slane t-shirts, probably, you know, the ones that you get with Hoxers on the side of the road, or maybe there was a shop downstairs that used to always sell t-shirts. I remember going in to get Iron Maiden t-shirts and stuff, but probably a shop like that. And I hopped on the bus then and went off to Slane, had a buzzing time, came back to Dublin, I suppose went and got a bag of chips or something like that, went to a pub, and then on to a nightclub, wasn't it? La Mirage on Parnell Street. And they met up with two male friends that they knew, and I suppose being a young mother that forgot what it was like to be young, didn't want the night to end, so off they went out of La Mirage, and Antoinette wanted to you know, the night to continue and have fun, and Maria said, look, I'm off home, I'm tired, I'm too tired to continue, but here's the key, you can let yourself in. And she went off with the two fellas, and they ultimately got in a taxi round about the, was it the Westmoreland Street area, round about the Gresham or somewhere along that. And this was, I suppose, between the time of about 2:15 and 2:45 a.m, something like that. The two fellas headed off anyhow to Ballymun, and we don't really know what happened to Antoinette after that, do we?
She walked up to O'Connell Bridge and jumped in a taxi that two men were sharing.
Okay. Now, these were not the two men that went on to Ballymun, two totally separate men, and she was supposed to be going to a party with them, and they headed to Rathfarnham. Now, Rathfarnham was literally only a stone's throw over that way from where we're at now. So the taxi driver came forward with this story after a period of time, wasn't it? And basically said, yeah, there's two men, youngish men, one of them was extremely tall. The reason that I know that is because his legs were so long, his knees were sticking into my back in the car. So they got off around about the Yellow House, and they were supposed to be going to a party, and that's really the end of that. But the thing is, who were those two individuals? I don't know, and I suppose nobody really knows regarding that. It's all kind of, there's a huge amount of guessing with this kind of stuff, and the fact that, you know, her body was found in such a highly decomposed manner, because it was the next year. So, like, I mean, if you think about it, she went missing in July, on the 12th of July, and this body was discovered 9 months later, on I think the 3rd of April in 1988. This family went for a picnic or whatever, and I'm guessing they probably had a dog with them or something like that, and the dog came across these remains that were in a high level of decomposition. Now, we're just approaching Crewe Woods here, so we're just going to drive in here for a second, and I'll continue rabbiting on. So this is it. So this is where the man that brought his dog for a really early Sunday morning walk came across these two men. And like I said, what concerned him about it mostly was that he said these two guys didn't look like they were hikers. So, you know, they weren't dressed for, you know, mountain hiking at such an early time in the day. So that's it, we're looking out over Dublin there. Now, the thing about it is, could it have been David Lawler and Larry Murphy? Like, who the hell knows? Like, I mean, I'm not speculating, I'm just saying it is possible. And, you know, that Voigtlass thing is probably very, very concerning insofar as these are statistics that are held and kept, you know, it's not they're not guessing. And in addition to that, the fact that Larry would fit the profile in terms of geographical profiling for this is very, you know, very concerning, I suppose. There's not really a whole lot more I can tell you about this case, other than, you know, it's still an active case, and it's been the case is managed out of Bray Garda Station. And have you anything to add to this one, Natalie, or?
Not really. Like, we set up a page there last year, Ireland's, you know, missing, unforgotten, and you know, her anniversary is coming up, and really the Bray Garda Station is looking after this case, and if anybody has any information whatsoever, however small, you know, they think it might be,
yeah, they should come forward. And you know what, the funny thing is, sometimes they might have a piece of information that they might consider completely irrelevant, but if 6 or 7 people bring other pieces of information together that's irrelevant, and they all are coherent and work in accordance with one another, now all of a sudden that small piece of information is a large piece of information. Somebody out there knows something about this, there is no doubt about that in my mind, as with most of these cases, you know.
We can put the number up on the page, and
yeah,
you know, the Unsolved and Forgotten page. And
like, I mean, I just think it's so sad that I really do feel that this is one of the, when we talk about unforgotten, sadly this has been one of the most forgotten murder cases and missing person cases in the country, I think, that we've ever had, because there was so little drive for this case. And maybe that was because it predates a lot of the stuff that we would have had in terms of the missing triangle, etc., the Annie McCarrick, the JoJo's, you know, where all of a sudden there was a realization that there could have been a correlation between all of these cases. And up to this point, I think they were all very much treated as individual cases and very much, you know, independent of one another. I personally think, look, I'm not a detective, as everybody knows. My job for the best part of my life has been a photojournalist with a particular sway towards photographing, you know, the kind of murder scenes and crime and stuff like that. But look, I have no qualifications whatsoever in terms of investigation, but I am an investigative photographer. And I feel that this case wasn't, it's sad to say, but I do feel it didn't get the attention it should have had. And like I said, somebody out there knows something. These kids are you know, women now, in their 40s, or one of them in their 40s and the other just, I suppose, approaching her 40s. You know, they still have, all they have of their mother is a couple of photographs and stuff like that. You know, memories of people that have expired before the birth of, you know, social media and, you know, the ability to capture media on computer files and stuff like that, often have very, very few images of their mother or father, brother or sister. You know, there's probably very little video footage of her or whatever, you know, and it's sad. They've only a few scraps of memories, and it would be nice for them to get some sort of closure to this case, and it would be nice for them to feel that they can let the spirit of their mother go, knowing that they kind of did right by her and really did their best to try and bring this to some sort of conclusion, which I suppose fundamentally this is what we're trying to do and help with these kind of cases, you know, because I just feel that we live in a society now where and I've seen this over the years working in the papers, that something is very, very relevant for such a very, very short period of time, and it's everywhere and then it's nowhere, and that's you know, very sad, because we forget that these people that are left in their homes crying day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out, and so on and so forth into decades, it doesn't get any easier for them. So guys, if anyone has anything to say, any comments, any information, anything at all, we'll put up a number for the Garda helpline on this one, and you know, if you want to comment directly to us or PM us through the Haunted Area page, that we'd love to hear from you as well. So we're going to kind of end this video now, and funnily enough, this will just show you what the close proximity it has to the Hellfire Club, because we're about to pass it there now in, I suppose, 30 or 40 seconds, if even that. So like I said, we also pass the Elaine O'Hara site there on the way back down from the Lemass Monument. So it's a place that people definitely gravitate towards for this kind of macabre activity. So guys, if you get ready now to look into your left hand side, it's coming up. We're nearly there. That's Killikee down there, and you can see a car parked there on the side. There you have it, the entrance to the infamous Hellfire Club. A place that we've brought you and told you a few stories about, and here we have Massey's Woods.
Killikee House.
Killikee House. Okay guys, so that's us. We've nothing more to say on this one. Thanks very much. We've had a great response with these murder case ones in particular, and like I said, it is a haunted area collective, so our ideas are to, you know, give a whole mixture of different things and try and keep it organic, because you know, we don't just want to do the same thing day in, day out, but this will be ongoing. This will be a kind of an ongoing thing, and so we'll visit the graveyards and, you know, salvage yards and
metal detecting.
If it's strange, if it's peculiar, it's our bag. So listen, thanks very much for all the support guys, and we'll see you next time.